Let it be known, I did not forget. Welcome in, everybody, to a roster rundown from my most recent custom rosters, the trade deadline edition that is live now for Xbox Series consoles. Again, I have a video covering the primary details of that update and previous updates as well, kind of go over the entire process, why certain overalls are the way that they are. This video, we're primarily going to be going through the minor league rosters, although that said, quickly, if I'm not mistaken, actually, I think my trade deadline update does have like Scott Harrington on this roster. It definitely does with that most recent update. And we scrolled through all of the NHL teams. So keep that in mind. But here, we're going to go through the AHL, the junior leagues, and a little bit through the European leagues. And I'll kind of say why it's only a little bit. ECHL is irrelevant with my rosters because, again, within franchise mode, the ECHL does not exist. So that's fun. Let's get going here on this. And I'm not going to go through every attribute or anything like that for this particular deal. We are just going to quickly scroll through here. And yeah, to be honest, there's not going to be a ton of players to look at in terms of who will actually have abilities, with the exception of, again, people with really high potential like Atu Ratu. And of course, a lot of guys who were drafted late and are on a really good trajectory. Third round's not so late, but a lot of guys who were drafted late that are on really good trajectories get low elite, but they miss out on the abilities. And I am getting over a little bit of a cough as well, so I'll throw that out there just in case it becomes overly distracting. But I'm still fairly happy with how the rosters turned out this year. I do think that, the goal was accomplished, excuse me, in terms of you look at the AHL and there is a much greater separation between low-end AHLer and a high-end AHLer. And then there's even more separation, of course, between those who are good in the AHL and those who are, decent at the NHL level. I think one of the primary issues with EA's rosters is that high-end AHL players are 78s, 79s. And, of course, that basically puts you right at NHL level when there is clearly a distinction. Holy shit, I didn't realize the Belleville Sens had so many forwards on their team. And most of them not under contract, when there is clearly a distinction, really, between a really, really good AHLer. Bridgeport, great example. Chris Terry, he has been almost a lifelong AHLer. He got some NHL time in a decade ago, did he not? Yeah, so like 3 games here. I thought it would show the team, but it didn't. But, for the most part, he's, been an AHLer, but a very, very good AHLer. But there needs to be that level between very, very good AHLer and NHLer. Of course, it is worth noting someone like Richard Panik, who is still under contract with the Islanders. Granted, he's playing overseas, just gets moved over to Bridgeport because within franchise mode, it will move him right back anyway. And, of course, a big thing that I've seen a lot of questions about, I think we can quickly scroll back over to Belleville here and, look at the forwards with Ridley Gregg. And again, when I edit Ridley Gregg, 2020, he starts off as a medium top 6. So how does he get medium elite? He has been consistently improving no matter what league he's been playing in since being drafted. And again, that was the primary goal with prospects, is to, really, I'm going to say as in all of us, let's have fun with the real life prospects that are actually there, even if they might be a little bit overrated, because at least this way they are more effective within franchise mode, and they're not immediately overrun and really irrelevant compared to the generated players. So that is why you will see certain people where it's like, oh, I just think that potential is a little bit high. Yeah, maybe in some senses, I would agree, and quite a few of those instances. But again, there was a reason behind that particular approach. And as per usual, again, if people have questions about it, ask away. I will answer in the comments. Hey, if it's more of this, same that I get from some people every year, which admittedly I love, the nope, it's trash, I don't care what your justification is, trash. I love those people just as much as well, because hey, they still checked out the video. Same thing with the first episode of my new Chicago franchise, where I knew changing the logo and making it a custom team would piss some people off. it's kind of fun to troll back every once in a while, every once in a while. Make sure to check that out, by the way, if you haven't. And, well, hey, if you're somehow new around here, of course, not only do we post stuff here, I'm live on twitch.tv/Tougie24 every single night, mostly. And, of course, there's the Tougie's Take podcast that you can watch right here on YouTube. Search the name. Or on your audio podcast platform of choice. Shout out to Carolina. They are, they got some prospects. Of course they do. And then there's Cleveland, who, Cleveland. Alex Tessier, same thing as Richard Panik as to why he's there and not overseas. Shout out to Yegor Chenikov as well, who, at least at the time, was down in the minors. Again, these rosters would have been locked in about a week ago, and I have not done much updating since posting the trade deadline roster update. So keep that in mind. There might have been some call-ups, some send-downs. Like I think Hutch is actually with the Blue Jackets, stuff like that. But yeah, keep that in mind. I'm not saying these are 100% accurate as of, well, this video should be going out on March 10th. So keep that in mind as the Thunderbirds. Yeah, a lot of dudes on AHL contracts. It's not great. Let's go back to looking at forwards here. Colorado. I mean, outside of Oscar Olesen, who's not bad and still has a decent potential, there's not much going on there. Accidentally went to goalies first. That's fine. And then defensively, Ryan Merkley. He's like right on the cusp of not deserving that potential anymore, but he keeps it for now. He does keep it for now. Grand Rapids, again, like John Lethamon. Again, Detroit has too many goalies signed, so he's technically on an AHL deal on these rosters. Haven't gotten the Steven Kampfer move over to the Coyotes, so again, keep that in mind. But this is essentially the file that is there for the download right now, again, on Xbox Series S or X. Again, let's just go back to forwards. Easy enough, but yeah, like Elmer Soderblom gets below elite because he's been a freak since being drafted in the 6th round in 2019. Not too much else there, though, shockingly, for the Griffins. Hartford is also, outside of Will Kuhl, looking kind of barren at this point. Carl Henriksen hasn't really adapted to the pro game all that well. Again, I still am very surprised the Rangers didn't go out and get some extra defense at the deadline. It looks like they could have used it. Probably. Henderson with Brassois, Yuri Patera. Defensively, Danil Miramanov keeps a low elite, at least for now. And again, these change throughout the the game's life cycle, and they change throughout the years as well, because that's how potentials work eventually. It's like, oh, cool, that guy didn't reach his full potential. It'd be nice if we could have like a NBA style, here's the full-on potential, the ceiling and the basement level, but we do not currently have that. And I don't know if we ever will. It's a bit of a shame. Yesterday, San Diego Studios with MLB The Show revealed their changes to their franchise mode. And for anyone who hasn't checked that out, I recommend you do so. There will be franchise mode content on my channels. And then again, I should say the second channel, TWO GIE24, which is where we always upload the likes of NBA, Madden, NCAA. College football revamped is going to start appearing if it hasn't already. So MLB The Show will definitely be heavily featured over there. I was already hyped for that game, and now it just looks even better. And I hope the people that make this game were watching and were taking a few notes, because while I still can enjoy NHL franchise mode for what it is, it's not in the same class as an NBA, as a FIFA, and now, dare I say, it's not in the same class as MLB The Show yet again. So, hey, we'll see what happens moving forward. But yeah, shout out to San Diego Studios and MLB The Show. Very, very excited for that game. But like I said, I can still enjoy franchise for what it is. I'm excited for the Chicago series that we got started. People have been asking me to use Chicago for a very, very long time, but obviously Since I've been on YouTube, it's like, well, they've won a lot and they still haven't fully they haven't committed to that rebuild. Whereas now, obviously, they are finally there and have very much commit to that rebuild. Next episode's actually not going to be going up until tomorrow. So if you're watching this when it's posted, hey, check it out, because we got some big decisions to make, that are kind of revealed at the end of that first episode. As Milwaukee, not too much there in terms of super high end. You have Marcus Nurmi, though. And again, this was a guy that was a low draft pick for the Sens. They forego his rights. He goes back overseas. He crushes it. Maybe, just maybe, he takes that step forward. Maybe in a few seasons, it's like, when that guy was a low elite, that was off. Same for Alex Turcotte, who is still promising, but obviously a 72 at 21. Who knows? Gil Thomas as well. Not bad. It's all about that upward trajectory for the most part and whether or not people have been able to sustain that development. Shout out to Cal Peterson, who, within franchise mode, pretty much ends up on the NHL roster. Let's see. Boston, Mike Riley, the best AHL defenseman. It's way too good to be in the AHL. Way too good. Forward-wise, Georgi Merkulov also gets that half-decent potential. Fabian Lysell. Of course, Jakub Lauko, John Beecher, former first-rounder. Shout out to Shane Bowers. Hoping he can somehow turn it around. The Sabres have a crap load of great prospects, not only here in the AHL with these forwards, but on the starting NHL roster as well. If you're looking for a fun team where, immediately they're not going to be great, but you give it a couple seasons and good Lord, Buffalo is probably the number one team in that regard as you get a look here at Rockford. And of course, we're going to be very, very familiar with quite a few of these guys as we get that franchise mode going. Let's see, San Diego. Instead of still got Jacob Perreault, a couple medium top sixes. It's not that bad for the Ducks. They could certainly be a more interesting rebuild option that people could use within franchise. Got Dostal, Eriksson Ek, the Barracuda, old San Jose. Nikita Hotjuk there now. I still don't think that trade for Timo Meier was all that bad. I really don't. Thomas Bordeleau still looking good. They got guys like Tristan Robbins, Daniel Gushchin, who are just a little bit of a step down. Ozzy Weisblatt. Sharks also on a bad team to rebuild at this point in time. We have the St. Louis Blues with lovely grinder Luke Witkowski. I think it's the first year he hasn't been an enforcer for me in a little bit. Oh, goodness, the Superior Kessel. Joel Hofer, who his overall is going to go up pretty soon. He's doing pretty damn well in the AHL. Syracuse. That's the team. Again, AHL level goalies aren't going to have that high of ratings, and it's a better way to go about it. There are guys who have never played NHL games on EA's rosters that have 76, 77 overalls. I don't understand that approach whatsoever, but it is the approach that they take. So, good for them, I suppose. Texas. Anybody overly interesting? Maverick Bourque. Pretty damn strong prospect. Defensively, Thomas Harley Thomas, as they called him at the draft. He's looking awesome. And let's see, the Marlies. Someone like Shalgren, very much affected by AHL time. Of course, it is worth remembering it is a 3-year scale as well. It's not just how good is this guy right here, right now, at this point in time? You got to factor in a couple of seasons. Get that general progression. That way you don't end up with Corey Conacher in 2013 deserved to be an 89 overall. It's that didn't age very well. No disrespect to Corey Conacher, but you get the point. If you don't know who Corey Conacher is, look him up. It was a magical time where for a brief moment in time, he was a star in the NHL. Oh, goodness. Shout out to Ivan Prosvetov, who's been getting time with the Coyotes as well, which kind of shows you where they are at. Defensively, Simon Nemec. Of course, the gem there, he and Luke Hughes for the Devils. They kept Alex Holtz. Devils are a pretty fun team to use for Season 1 as well, especially if you can make it work to keep Timo Meier. Of course, the Penguins have some decent prospects if you were to look to start to rebuild them, which might not be the worst decision in the world. Of course, I'm saying that after watching them blow it against the Islanders on Thursday night, so tough call. So that is it for the AHL. What we're going to do for the rest of this is just kind of scroll through. That way I'm not sitting here struggling to explain things. So, hey, if you enjoy this, if you're happy I posted this, you're welcome. Thank you for asking for it. Thank you for supporting me and this channel. And again, check out the new franchise mode stuff and everything else that we have going on here. So to rejoin this video in progress really quickly as we get over to the European leagues again, these rosters are not going to be accurate. To stop an overflow of talents onto and here the best way to do this is probably sort by age now at this point. To stop an overflow of talents onto the free agent list at the start of franchise, you do have to move quite a few players from these European leagues over to international teams. It is not ideal, but given that it immediately means that the AI go on these massive signing sprees, it is to me the best option really that we have, at least until maybe someday, possibly, potentially, they replicate what we've had in FIFA for the longest time. And FIFA is set up to be like this massive living world where every league has its own proper structure and you can bring players over from one league to another. And it's not as if they were just off in a void the whole time. Like they were there, they are playing in these leagues. So yeah, really until we kind of get a FIFA-like system for what I do and, trying to stop the AI from essentially screwing themselves over, there are certain things that you have to do to kind of prevent the AI from doing that. It sucks. It's not ideal, but I feel like that could describe a decent amount about this game. So yeah, if you were hoping for like totally accurate SHL rosters and stuff like that, based off of the decision making I have to make from this game's shortcomings, it is not set up that way. But I do know other people who are out there, especially here on the Xbox Series consoles. I've highlighted his rosters before. Viewer, supporter of mine for years at this point, but the Vasi rosters, he does put out updates where he tries to come up with accurate, overalls and potentials for players in every league, which again is just something that I can't do. I mean, the essentially the overall cap for forwards would have to be like and really for everyone, it would be like, okay, if you're a high-end SHL player, you're like a 74. And that would just be to stop the AI from being ridiculous at the start of every franchise. But just wanted to explain that. Now I'm leaving again.